Hi guys, in this video we're going to talk about two different types of lob. Now the lob is probably the most important shot in the game, and it's probably the most under-practiced shot by most recreational players. So in this video we're going to show you two different ways that you can lob your opponent and then take the net. Now if we break down the objective in Padel, which is obviously to win the point, it's easier to do that while we're at net, so we have to find a way of forcing our opponents back. And the best way and least risky way of doing that is with a lob. Now, you've obviously played those games where your opponents are smashing everything. So there's two ways of getting that net position. Either you hit a lob over your opponents and they have to run back and then you come forward, or you force them to go for a smash that they shouldn't go for, in which case the ball often bounces, comes off the glass, and then you come forward. That's two ways that the lob is effective at getting that net position for you. The first lob we're going to look at is the high lob. Now this is great if you're in an indoor where you've got a high ceiling, or you're outside, even better. And what that is you're at the back, opponent's at the net, and you're going to come nice and under that ball and get some really good height on it. Because even though it's less accurate on the other side of the court, you can't be as specific. Because it's high, it's always difficult to smash. They've got to wait for that ball to come down, and that means you can move in a different position. And also the ball is dropping and it's increasing speed as it's dropping. So they will end up either having to play a defensive bandeja or some kind of tough volley in order to keep you at the back of the court.
The return down the tee is another good time to use this lob. Here you can see he comes underneath the ball, hits nice and high, even gives himself time to recover and come forward if he wants to.
You have two options. Once you've hit this high lob, you can either see that it's cleared them, in which case that gives you time for you and your partner to come and take that net position, forcing them to the back of the court. Or if it is the high lob and you can see that they're going to play it with a bandeja, you can make the choice. Either you want to come forward and block that bandeja. If you feel like it's a difficult lob and they're not going to be able to hit a very good shot, you can come forward, block it, and still take that net position. Or if you feel like either they're a good smasher or that it's not such a deep lob and they're quite short and they can be a bit more aggressive, then you might want to stay back and defend again and try and get another opportunity to lob. The second lob is the fast lob. Now this is a slightly more advanced lob, and you'll play this in certain situations. For example, if your opponents are close to the net, and you can bring them close to the net by playing either down to their feet with a chiquita, so they have to come forward for the volley and then you can quickly play over their head. Or if they've hit a short volley and you move up the court and you've got space, you can play a faster lob. Because if you think about the trajectory of the lob, if you hit the high lob, it's going to bounce up high, bounce either off the glass or the fence, and they've got time to react. But the faster lob is a much lower lob that only just clears the opponents, and it will bounce off the back glass, so you need to really make sure that your opponents are quite close to the net in order to do that. You're unlikely to play a fast lob from the back of the court here because they have time to move back quickly and get in position. So you're more likely to play it from slightly further up the court, and this is a great way to get that net position because you need to bring the opponent forward, then quickly play over their head, and because it's fast and they're running back to catch it, they can't be really aggressive off that back glass because it doesn't have a high enough bounce.
This is a great example of forcing a short volley because he's hit down to the feet, and then a nice fast lob over his head because there's space behind. This is a great way to take the net position with that fast lob.
There are a few factors to consider when you decide which lob to play. It depends on your opponents, it depends on the conditions, whether you're outside, inside, the height of the roof, all of those things. So to begin with your opponents, if they can hit an aggressive topspin smash off your high lob, then you need to change your tactic and to play one down to their feet and then to play a fast lob, for example. You want to put them out of their comfort zone. Now, if you're playing outdoors and it's windy and it's difficult for you to be accurate with that high lob, you might choose to play the faster lob to put them out of position. If you're playing against someone who's tall or fast or doesn't move very well, then there's going to be different lobs that work in your favour. So the best thing you can do is to experiment in your games, and early on in the match you can find out what your opponents like and don't like. And also, one of the most important things is to practice this in your training. It really is important to practice the lob. What normally happens is players are feeding bandejas, like in the warm-up for a match, they feed the bandeja, which is obviously a short lob so your opponent can practice. And then they get into a match and they end up hitting short lobs the whole match and they don't really know why. So it's important that if you do have training or you are in your matches, really practice getting some nice deep lobs, whether it's the high one or the fast one.
This point illustrates a variety of lobs, so the return played down is usually quite a sensible option, and then here a fastish lob to try and go over, but they've moved back, hit a bandeja, which happens a lot of the time. A bit of a higher lob to try and force them back, again they're keeping the net position well, they're hitting good bandejas, and a fast lob over the top, again the player comes back and hits that bandeja, which is good play. Eventually we get that fast lob over the heads and we're able to come forward. They've hit a nice high defensive lob and it's meant they're able to get that net position back straight away, and you can see here how important the lob is and how many times it can be hit during a point.